Okay, so today we're going to go over the programming, the simple programming of a Hunter control. This is a Hunter indoor control, 8 stations, and we're going to show you guys how to program it manually. Here we go. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your date and your time are correct. What you'll do is you'll go to the dial and just want to make sure that you have the correct date first. It starts with the date, the first year. We are in 2021. A lot of times when you initially activate the control, it'll be maybe the year 2000 or whatnot. So you'll have to adjust it by hitting the plus and the minus button. The plus button increases and the minus button decreases. So as an example, if you were to come in and let's just say that's what popped up when you turn on your control for the first time, it says 2010. We're actually in 2021. So you would just hit the plus button all the way until you get to 2021. Once that's set, you hit the right arrow button and it takes you to the month. So now you see that the month is flashing. We want to make sure that it is in the correct month. Again, you would do the plus to increase, the minus to decrease. We are in January, so that's month number 1. Then you go right arrow button again and it goes to the date. Now the date starts flashing. That indicates that that's what we're trying to change. And today is January the 20th, so that is correct. But again, if it were to be off, let's just say it said 125, you would just decrease it down to 120. Once you have that set, you will go to the right arrow button again. And now it goes to the time. You can see you have AM and PM. You want to make sure that it is on the correct time setting of the day, because if you have this incorrect, whatever time you set the control to run, it could affect the time of the start time for your control. So it's very important to make sure that it is indeed on PM if it is in the afternoon, or AM if it's in the morning. So right now we're in the afternoon, so that's fine. We're going to hit the right arrow button again, and now we go to the hour of the day. For us it is 2:47, so that is correct. But again, you would just hit the minus. Let's just say it popped up at 9:47. I would just increase it to say 2. Same thing, you would hit the right arrow button to go to the minutes. You can see that that's flashing, and if it was at 2:50, 2:40, you would just increase it to the correct time, which is 2:48, and then you would hit the right arrow button again. And then you're set. Now, once it restarts back to the year, then you know that you have the correct date and time set. Now you can just go to the next portion, would be to select your start time. For us in our region, typically during the summer, and most times we do set the irrigation control at 5 a.m. in the morning. You guys can set it at your preference. I know a lot of times during droughts and those kinds of things, there are water restrictions in place. So you would want to make sure you check your local municipality guidelines for watering times. Sometimes you can't water between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. during the day. So you want to make sure that you do check those guidelines for your local municipality and that you are in compliance with those. Again, let's just assume, I think when you first program your control, it does start off at 12. So we're going to set it to 5 a.m. in the morning. You already know that the AM is set there. So now we're going to increase the time. It's in 15-minute intervals for your start times. We're just going to keep going until we get to 5. So we're at 5 a.m. The simple program on this, we're only going to use program A. You can actually program this up to 4 times a day to start. But you do want to make sure, this is very important, a lot of the callbacks that we get from customers and clients that their system's been running, their water bills are high. Typically it's because they have more than one start time running. If you do have multiple start times to run, then you have to understand that the system's going to run all the start times that it's programmed to run. So in this simple program setup, we're going to make sure that it's only running one time. So as for instance, let's just say you got to it and it did have this on right now. So the second program time for it to start would be 1:15 a.m. and we have it running at 5 a.m. So it would run at 1:15, shut itself off, but then again at 5 a.m. it's going to run again. So what you want to do is make sure Again, this is more of a simple programming, so we're going to only use one program time. So what you would do in this instance is you would make sure that you only have the one program running. So you would go to the minus, and it goes to the off, and now it's set off. So you're only going to have the one start time. And you can just verify that the others are turned off as well by hitting the right arrow button. There's 3 is off, and A4 is off. And you click it again, you can come back to A1. So that's 5 a.m. So now your start time is programmed. It's going to come on at 5 o'clock in the morning. Next thing you want to do is you're going to go to your run times. So your run times is for each section, and this is in minutes. Another callback that we get from time to time again. My system's been running for a very long time. I have puddles of water in the yard, and I'll come out and see, and I'll ask the client or the homeowner, I'll say, how long do you usually run your system? And then they'll tell me, oh, it's running for 4 minutes. And what I see is, when I get there, something like this. This is actually 6 hours. That's 6 hours of runtime for one valve. That could do damage to the valve because it's running for 6 hours consistently and it's doing it every day. That's just way too much time. So it's very important to recognize and understand that this is in hours and minutes, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to set it back for 8 minutes, okay? So this means that section A1, section 1, zone 1, is going to run for 8 minutes. For us, this particular section is pop-ups. We want to run it for 8 minutes, so that's what we're going to do. Then to go to the next section, you would hit the right arrow button, and then you get to section 2. Now you see section 2 is running for 5 minutes. Again, to adjust, you click up to increase, plus, minus to decrease. Okay, so we're going to 5. And then once you have that timing down, you would go to the next section, which would be 3. Again, if you wanted to increase the time, you'd want to go to 10 minutes, just go to 10, make sure it's blinking and you're good. And then you would hit the arrow button. So now you're going to A4. Now you see that you're in the 4th zone. I'm going to come back to the 3rd zone and decrease this time back to 5 minutes. Now we see it's running for 5 minutes, and we're going to continue going on to the next. Basically, it's the same premise for every section that you're running. You want to just go to each section one by one and program the amount of start time that you have, run time that you have on there. And it would just vary between your sod areas, your tree areas. If you have a drip system, those kind of things would basically tell you how long you need to run each particular zone or each particular section, how much time it needs to run. And then you would also, depending on the time of year and the heat conditions, those kind of things would dictate how much time you're going to run. So as you see, this one here is also section 6. It's running for 5 minutes. Go to the right again, section 7, 5 minutes. And the final section is section 8, and that's running for 4 minutes. You start back over. This gives you your total run time for this cycle. It's going to run for 42 minutes based on what we have programmed, okay? So there we go. You have your right arrow button and your left arrow button. Once you go to A2 or A3 and you want to go back and change the time for A1 or A2, you hit the left arrow button and it'll take you back to that time. Now we're going to go back to 5 minutes, okay? So now the final thing for this simple programming for this Hunter control is your water days. For every time you see a drop of water over that particular day, that means the system will come on for that day. Whenever you see the droplet is missing, that indicates that the system will not come on for that day. So in this particular cycle, we have it set up for this program to run 3 times a day, which is going to be Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and it's going to be off Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now to turn it on or off, in this instance it's on, you want to turn it off, you would just hit the minus button. Turns it off and it goes to the next day. Okay, so I want to go back and turn it back on, hit the left button there, and now you can see that I'm going to increase it. And now we're right back to where we started with it being on. So you would do that for each particular day, depending on whether you want it to come on or off. So you would scroll through it with the right and left buttons and turn on or off with the plus and minus. And once you have everything set and your system's good to go and you want to run it at that particular program, you just come back to the run position and make sure it's in run, your timing is correct, everything's good, and now your program's set. So one last thing that you do, if you do have a rain-free sensor, You would come to the rain-free sensor that's next to your control. Typically, you would open it, make sure that it is hooked up and on. The status right here, you can see that this sensor is dry. You got a green status. When your sensor is wet, it'll actually be red. And that means that your system will not come on because it's wet outside or the conditions outside are wet. The sensor's gotten wet. So obviously it's rained or it's, below 40 degrees. So the freeze sensor kicks in. I believe that's the temperature that the freeze sensor kicks in for. So that's what that is. As long as it's on green, you're good. It will operate. If it's on red, then it will not operate. And you just want to make sure that this button here on your control is on the on section. This is for your rain-free sensor. If you want to bypass a sensor for whatever reason, you want to run it while it shows red, you would just hit the bypass button, and then it'll allow you to control the control there and to turn on your system using the control by bypassing the rain-free sensor. So again, just always make sure it's in the on position. Everything else there is good. You cover it up, and then you can just close it and you're done. That's all we got. So any questions, please feel free to look at our website. We have plenty of information on there. It's www.sandovallandscaping.com. Feel free to shoot us an email. There's all the contact information on our website. All right, thank you guys.